In the heart of the Wild West, where dust storms raced across the open plains and the sun cast long shadows on the rugged landscape, stood a small settlement known as Silver Creek. It was a place where fortunes were made and lost, and where the law often meant nothing more than the strength of a man's hand. Among the townsfolk, whispers circulated about a hidden gold mine belonging to one of the richest families in the region, the Whitakers. This mine was said to be blessed with veins of gold that sparkled like the stars, and many had tried to find it, but none ever returned. One day, as the sun began to dip below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, a lone cowboy rode into Silver Creek. His name was Jake, a tall figure draped in a weathered duster, his face rugged from years of exposure to the harsh elements. He had traveled from afar, compelled by the lure of riches and the challenge of the unknown. With his horse clop-clopping on the dirt road, he brought with him promises of adventure and tales of bravery. As Jake entered the saloon, the air thick with the scent of whiskey and cigars, the chatter quieted. All eyes turned to him, curious about the newcomer. He sauntered to the bar, a confident swagger in his step, and ordered a drink. The bartender, a balding man named Sam, eyed him with a mix of suspicion and respect. "Shall you here for the Whitaker gold?" Sam asked, wiping a glass with a rag that looked like it had seen better days. "Maybe," Jake replied, taking a sip, "but it's the tales that intrigue me more. What's the story behind it?" Sam leaned in, his voice low. "Folks say the mine is cursed. Many have sought it, but their dreams turn to nightmares. The Whitakers guard it fiercely, and anyone who tries to take what's theirs doesn't make it back." Jake raised an eyebrow, intrigued. He had faced danger before and knew that fortune favored the bold. Just then a fray broke out in the corner of the saloon, two rough-looking men brawling over a game of cards. As chairs clattered and fists flew, Jake remained calm, watching with keen interest. After all, this was the Wild West, and conflict was as common as tumbleweeds. Amidst the chaos, a woman emerged from the shadows. Her name was Lila, the daughter of the Whitaker patriarch. With hair as dark as a raven's wing and eyes that sparkled with intelligence and wit, she commanded attention even in a room full of rowdy men. Lila had heard the commotion and rushed into the saloon to see what was happening. As her gaze locked onto Jake, she felt a spark of recognition. Sensing her presence, Jake turned his head. "You from the Whitaker family?" he asked, taking an immediate interest in her brave demeanor. She nodded, her chin raised defiantly. "I am. And I've come to warn you." Jake raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "Warn me? About what?" "The stories you hear, they're true. My father's mine is protected by more than just rock. There are dangers that lurk in the shadows, and gold has a way of drawing out the worst in people. If you seek it, you do so at your own peril." Her tone was earnest. Jake took a step closer, intrigued by her words. "And what do you have to say about those who seek it? Are they simply fools chasing shadows?" Lila smirked, a hint of admiration in her eyes. "Some are, but others are driven by desperation. The gold isn't just a lure, it's a lifeline for many in this unforgiving land." A brief silence lingered between them before the tension was broken. "Then why are you warning me?" Jake asked, narrowing his eyes curiously. "Shouldn't you want me to stay clear?" "Because," Lila replied, her voice steady, "I see something in you, a chance for change. My father is stubborn, and he's lost sight of the people who need that gold. He's consumed by greed and fear. Maybe you could help him see." Jake was taken aback by her honesty. "And how do you propose I do that?" "Help me lead you to the mine," she explained. "It's time my father realizes the true value isn't in hoarding gold, but in sharing it with those who need it most." The gravity of her words weighed heavily on Jake's heart. Here was an opportunity to not only seek treasure, but to challenge a powerful man's greed. He felt the thrill of adventure rush through him, igniting the fire in his spirit. "Lead the way, Lila. I'm in." Together they devised a plan. Under the veil of night, when the world was shrouded in darkness, Jake and Lila set off toward the distant mountains where the mine lay hidden. With only the moon and stars to guide them, their journey was fraught with uncertainty and danger. As they rode side by side, the rhythm of their horses echoed their growing bond. With each mile they traversed, Lila shared stories of her family's history, revealing the struggles and sacrifices they had faced to maintain their legacy. "My father's obsession with wealth has blinded him," she said. her voice reflecting the pain of disappointment. "I believe if we can uncover the mine's treasures and share them, we can heal this wound in our community." As night fell deeper, the cold air bit at their cheeks. They approached a hidden crevice only visible to those who knew where to look. "This is it," Lila whispered, dismounting and gesturing for Jake to do the same. Heart pounding with anticipation, Jake took in the surroundings. Tall rocks loomed overhead, and the wind whispered secrets of the past. "Let's go," he said, his resolve unwavering. Inside, the darkness swallowed them. Torches flicked to life, illuminating the damp walls speckled with glimmers of gold. The sight filled Jake with awe, but caution lingered in the back of his mind. "Stay close," he warned, knowing the legends of traps and dangers that guarded such treasures. As they ventured deeper into the mine, the air grew thick with tension. Suddenly, a low rumble echoed through the cavern. Lila's eyes widened in fear. "We have to hurry. The cave is unstable." They raced through the tunnels, adrenaline pumping as rocks began to fall around them. Heart in his throat, Jake grabbed Lila's hand, urging her forward. "This way!" he shouted, leading her toward a possible exit. Just as they reached what seemed to be a final barrier, the ground shook violently, sending dust and debris flying everywhere. They stumbled through the opening, tumbling onto the ground outside. Breathless and covered in dirt, they lay on the earth, the stars twinkling above them. As Jake caught his breath, he turned to Lila. "You all right?" he asked, concern etched on his face. "I am," she replied, brushing the dirt off her clothes with a smile that lit up the night. "We did it!" In that moment, both realized the treasure was not merely the gold they had discovered, but the connection they forged through shared danger. Together, they had faced the unknown and emerged stronger. Determined to change her father's heart, Lila took Jake back to Silver Creek. They would confront the weight of greed and tradition, armed with the gold they found and the resolve to share it with those in need. With each step, the townsfolk watched, curious about what this daring duo would bring to their community. As Jake stood beside Lila, the weight of their shared mission settled on his shoulders. He was ready for whatever lay ahead, fueled by the bonds of bravery and love. As dawn painted the sky with hints of gold and lavender, Jake and Lila stood at the center of Silver Creek, gold glinting in Jake's hands, a tangible emblem of their joint mission. The bustling town stirred to life, unaware of the monumental change that was about to unfold. Lila's heart raced with anticipation. She had not only unearthed treasure, but had also unearthed hope. "Are you ready?" Lila asked, her voice steady, though excitement coursed through her veins. Jake nodded, his resolve solidifying as they prepared to face her father, Nathaniel Whitaker, the patriarch of the family and a man known for his stubbornness. Together they approached the Whitaker estate, a sprawling ranch that loomed like a palace over the rustic landscape. The walls were adorned with reminders of past achievements, trophies of wealth displayed like shields against the world outside. As they reached the grand front door, Lila took a deep breath, steeling herself for the confrontation that lay ahead. "Father," Lila called, stepping inside the expansive foyer, decorated with sumptuous furniture and artwork that spoke of a life lived in excess. "We need to talk." Jake followed close behind, sensing the weight of the moment. Nathaniel appeared at the top of the grand staircase, his brow furrowed with annoyance. "What is the meaning of this disturbance?" he bellowed, his voice echoing off the walls. Lila squared her shoulders, determination burning in her eyes. "I found the mine, Father," she declared, holding out her hand to reveal the gold nuggets that shimmered like stars. Nathaniel's expression changed from annoyance to skepticism. "And what do you plan to do with that? Hoard it like all the others?" "No," Lila replied firmly. "We have to share it. There are people in this community who are suffering. This gold can help them." Nathaniel descended the stairs, his demeanor shifting from authority to curiosity. "You think a few nuggets can fix what is broken in this town?" Jake stepped forward, sensing the tension in the air. "It's not just about the gold, Mr. Whitaker. It's about changing lives. You've seen the suffering of the townsfolk. We have the chance to rewrite the narrative, bring hope and prosperity instead of greed." The older man studied Jake, taking in his rugged figure and the determination that radiated from him. "And why should I trust a stranger's words?" he challenged. "Because I understand what it's like to fight for a better life," Jake answered, his voice steady. "I've walked through the fire and come out on the other side. You have a responsibility, a legacy. Wouldn't you want your family to be remembered for more than just wealth? The challenge in his words rang true, and Nathaniel's expression remained unreadable. You speak of responsibility, yet you come here asking me to give it all away. My forefathers sacrificed for this wealth, Lila interjected, her voice rising with fervor. And what about the community? What legacy will you leave if they are left to suffer? Our family name can still mean something, but it can be greater than just gold. The room fell silent, and for a moment Nathaniel's hardened exterior seemed to waver. A flicker of doubt crossed his face, but it was quickly replaced by a steely determination. You think sharing will change these people? They'll be back to their old ways, and we'll be left to pick up the pieces. Lila stepped toward him, her gaze unwavering. People can change. I believe in them, and I believe in you. This gold can heal us, Father. Not just you, but everyone. It can unite Silver Creek and build a future. His hard gaze softened as he looked at his daughter, a mixture of pride and concern swirling within him. You truly believe that, Lila? I do, she said softly. Together we can show them that hope matters more than gold. After what felt like an eternity, Nathaniel sighed, the weight of the world resting squarely on his shoulders. Very well, but it will not be an easy task. You will witness the true nature of mankind when we bring the gold forth and share it. Jake felt a rush of relief wash over him. We will do whatever it takes, with your guidance. Later that day, the townsfolk gathered in the center of Silver Creek, intrigued by the news that Nathaniel Whitaker and his daughter were calling for a meeting. Whispers spread like wildfire, and a crowd began to form, vibrant but anxious faces reflecting both hope and skepticism. As Jake and Lila stood beside Nathaniel, he cleared his throat, silencing the chatter. People of Silver Creek, he began, his voice resonating with authority. Today we stand at a crossroads. My daughter discovered the mine, a treasure which could be used to uplift this community. Gasps rippled through the crowd, and many exchanged bewildered glances. But, he continued, this gold must serve as a testament to our unity. We stand to share it with all of you to help those in need. Why should we trust you now? A voice called out from the back, skepticism hanging in the air. Because I was wrong to blind myself with wealth, Nathaniel replied, meeting the eyes of the townsfolk. I've seen the consequences of greed. It drove me to a place where I didn't see you, the people who built this town. I see you now, and I want to make amends. Murmurs surged within the crowd, a mixture of disbelief and hope. A woman named Mary stepped forward, her voice wavering. Will it really help us? Will it change anything? Jake spoke up. It will, but it's not just about wealth. It's about working together. This gold can be a foundation for new trades, prosperity, jobs, and hope, Lila finished, glancing at Jake, their eyes connected with a shared purpose. With each resonating word, the atmosphere shifted, the grip of skepticism easing as curiosity and cautious hope took root. The crowd began to nod, some stepping forward, the tension slowly dissipating. I didn't come here to take, Jake added passionately. I came here because I believe in this place and the people. Let's create a future together, he urged, one built on trust and respect. As the sun dipped below the horizon once again, casting a golden glow over Silver Creek, the townsfolk began to buzz with excitement at the prospect of change. The potential for a new chapter ignited conversations, and soon the skepticism that once stood firm began to dissolve into a vision for a brighter tomorrow. With the burden of secrets shared and the weight of responsibility borne, Jake and Lila exchanged glances, knowing that this was merely the beginning of a greater adventure, a journey together that could mend a fractured community and forge a lasting legacy. As they embarked on this path, hope reignited in the dusty streets of Silver Creek, where gold would no longer signify greed, but the promise of hope, unity, and a new dawn. The days that followed were filled with a whirlwind of activity, as excitement coursed through the veins of Silver Creek. The town, once steeped in mistrust and despair, was transforming into a hub of anticipation and unity. Meetings were held daily, and a committee of townsfolk came together to discuss how best to use the newly found wealth. Jake and Lila found themselves at the heart of it all, working tirelessly alongside the people to devise plans that would ensure everyone benefited from the gold. One sunny afternoon, They gathered in the old schoolhouse, the wooden structure creaking under the weight of the many eager voices that filled the room. The townspeople buzzed with ideas, each one fervent about contributing to a shared vision of their community's future. Lila stood before the crowd, her heart racing but her voice steady. "We've all seen the struggles our neighbors face," she began, addressing the gathering. "With the gold, we have a chance to create jobs, support education, and build facilities that will serve everyone. But we need your input. What do you think is most important?" A man named Tom, a hard-working rancher, raised his hand eagerly. "We need a new school. The kids deserve better than this old place. They need a proper education to help our town thrive." Several others nodded in agreement, and the crowd murmured with approval. Lila smiled, her spirit lifting with hope. "A new school it is. What else?" Next, Clara, a single mother and seamstress, spoke up. "And we need a community center, a place where we can gather, hold events, and support each other." "Exactly," Jake chimed in, feeling energized as he looked around the room. "A place to celebrate our victories and find support during tough times. We all need this togetherness." Ideas poured forth as the townsfolk shared their dreams. Better roads, water infrastructure, job training programs, and a marketplace for local goods. Each suggestion was another spark, lighting the fire of cooperation that transformed Silver Creek into a place of potential. As the late afternoon sun streamed in through the dusty windows, Lila felt the momentum building around them. It was more than just gold. It was a chance to reset the foundation of their lives and redefine who they were as a community. She turned to Jake, whose eyes sparkled with excitement. "This is really happening," she said quietly, feeling the warmth of hope enveloping them. Days faded into weeks, and the shared goals continued to take shape. As the first meeting to distribute resources approached, anticipation hung in the air like a storm cloud ready to burst. The committee had decided to host a gathering at the center of town, where everyone could come to hear how the distribution would occur. On the evening of the meeting, torches flickered, illuminating the faces of eager townsfolk gathered in the square. Lila stood on a small makeshift platform beside her father, who had reluctantly agreed to take a more active role in the proceedings. Nathaniel's face was painted with a mixture of pride and skepticism as he surveyed the crowd. "Today we embark on an important journey together," he declared. "While the wealth we found in the mine can change our lives, we must never forget that the true value lies in our community and the support we give each other." A round of applause filled the air, and the energy shifted as the crowd absorbed his words. Lila stepped forward, heart pounding, as she felt the weight of expectations. "So it's time for us to unite. Together we'll use this gold to build a brighter future, one where we all share in the rewards." Jake followed her lead, his voice resonating through the crowd. "We're not just sharing wealth, we're sharing responsibility. We must work together, not just today but for tomorrow and the days after that." Excitement rippled through the crowd as Lila unveiled the plans they had crafted. "We'll recover buildings for community programs, start a marketplace every weekend, and prioritize education," she explained, her enthusiasm infectious. "We want to invest in all of you." The crowd erupted into cheers, faces lighting up with hope as they clapped and whistled. The energy grew, and for the first time in years, unity pierced the air like a palpable force. But amidst the excitement, Lila felt a familiar pang of concern. There were still whispers of dissent among a few townsfolk who doubted this path could hold firm. "What will happen if this wealth brings greed back into our lives?" one questioned, casting a shadow over the gathering. Nathaniel cleared his throat, stepping in to reassure them. "If we work together, we can ensure none of us fall prey to greed. We must keep each other accountable. It's the only way to truly succeed." Lila added, "We'll create a council of community members to oversee projects, ensuring everyone has a voice and everyone benefits." As the meeting concluded, excitement surged through the air, and plans were soon set into motion. Teams formed to enact the community's vision, while Jake and Lila took on roles as leaders for the initiatives. They became a symbol of hope, an emblem of change, not just for Silver Creek, but for the surrounding areas as well. In the weeks that followed, the town transformed. Lila organized work groups to rebuild the school, while others focused on developing the community center. The hum of activity swirled around them as people poured their hearts and efforts into these projects. Neighbors who had once been strangers became allies in a new purpose. Jake, often building alongside Tom and the other ranchers, found joy in their camaraderie. Together they learned to trust one another, inspiring more conversations and collaborations between the townsfolk. With every swing of a hammer and every plank that was laid, they were not just constructing buildings, they were constructing relationships. As the sun set over Silver Creek one warm evening, casting a warm glow on their achievements, Lila and Jake took a moment to reflect on their journey. "We've come so far," Lila said, leaning against a post with a smile that lit up her face. "Can you believe how much we've achieved?" Jake nodded, feeling a mixture of pride and happiness. "This is just the beginning, Lila. We're building something that will last far beyond us." With newfound resilience, they looked toward the horizon. Together, they had woven a tapestry of trust and hope, setting the foundation for a transformative legacy in Silver Creek. It was a legacy built not just on gold, but on the belief that real treasure lay in the bonds forged among the community. With the promise of a bright future ahead, they felt invincible, ready to face whatever challenges might come their way, side by side. As the weeks turned into months, Silver Creek began to flourish like never before. The once dusty streets were now vibrant with life, laughter, and the sound of hammers at work. The community center took shape, a sturdy building that would soon be a gathering place for meetings, celebrations, and support, a far cry from the isolation that had plagued them for so long. Lila and Jake were often found at the construction site, coordinating with townsfolk and getting their hands dirty. Every afternoon, children from around the town raced past, their laughter echoing through the air like a sweet melody, a testament to the hope that was growing within the community. One afternoon, as the sun hung low on the horizon, Jake and Lila stood on a scaffold, surveying the sturdy frame of the community center. "This will be a place where people can come together, regardless of their status," Lila mused, a hint of wonder in her voice. "A space for everyone to share their stories and dreams." Jake nodded, admiring her vision. "And a place for us to celebrate our achievements. This was never just about the gold. It's about building a future where everyone feels included." As they descended from the scaffold, a familiar face approached them. It was Clara, a beaming smile on her face, carrying a basket filled with fresh baked goods. "Thought you two could use a break," she called, presenting the basket with a flourish. "Clara, you're a lifesaver," Lila exclaimed, her eyes lighting up at the sight of warm bread and pastries. They settled down on some hay bales, a makeshift picnic amidst the ongoing construction. As they shared the delicious treats, Clara leaned in, her expression shifting to one of concern. "I've been hearing things," she said carefully. "Rumors about the gold. Some folks are starting to worry that things will go back to how they were, every man for himself." Jake's brow furrowed. "We've come so far. We can't let doubt seep back in. The progress we've made is too important." Clara sighed, her face reflecting the anxiety she felt. "I know, but there are still those who would rather take than share. The lure of gold is strong, and not everyone has your heart for this community." Lila looked at her friend, determination filling her chest. "We have to address this. If there are fears, we need to confront them head-on. Fear breeds division, and division is the last thing we need now." Jake agreed. "We should hold a town meeting, open the floor for discussions. Let's remind everyone why we decided to change our path in the first place." The following day, the sun hung high in the sky as townsfolk gathered once again at the center of Silver Creek. Excitement mixed with apprehension created an electric atmosphere. As chairs filled up, a sense of unity emerged. They were there together, facing the uncertain future as a collective. Lila stood up first, feeling the butterflies in her stomach. "Thank you all for coming. Today we stand not just as neighbors but as a family. We've done incredible things together, and I believe we can continue to do so." The crowd murmured their agreement, their faces reflecting a mixture of hope and uncertainty. "However," Lila continued, "I've heard some concerns about the gold and our direction as a community. I want us to address those fears openly." A voice from the crowd called out, "What if the greed returns? What if someone comes in and tries to take what we've built?" "It's a valid concern," Jake replied, stepping forward. "But it's important to remember that we've all witnessed firsthand the change that comes from working together. The gold brought us together, not apart." Clara echoed, "Let's commit to transparency. If any changes are proposed involving the gold, they should be brought to the group. We need to be accountable to one another. Encouragement rippled through the crowd. Others began to add their thoughts, sharing fears and hopes alike. Each voice was welcomed, each concern met with understanding, slowly weaving an even tighter bond amongst them. I urge you all to focus on what we have accomplished, Lila implored. We have built bridges, not just roads. Let's continue to build trust as the foundation of our community. As the gathering progressed, people began to share stories of how their lives had changed since embracing this new vision. A sense of relief started to unfurl, and the tension began to dissipate. They remembered the laughter of children, the closing of deals in the marketplace, and the life flowing back into the town. As the sun dipped low again, draping a warm light over the gathering, a newfound resolve took hold of the community. Plans were made for more festivals, community dinners, and even storytelling nights, where everyone could share their experiences and visions for the future. Over time, the bonds tightened. Jake and Lila thrived in their roles, forging ahead, guiding the townsfolk toward a sustainable future, one rooted in respect and cooperation. They managed to create systems that involved regular meetings, allowing the townspeople to voice their opinions and concerns openly. This openness transformed fear into unity and distrust into collaboration. But despite the growth, shadows loomed on the horizon. Whispers of an outsider interested in the gold began to circulate, a stranger who had heard of the changes in Silver Creek and the valuable resource they possessed. His reputation was tinged with rumors of deceit and avarice. Lila couldn't shake the feeling of unease. With every passing day, the stranger seemed to draw closer, and she knew it was only a matter of time before he would make his move. One evening, under the glow of the lanterns lighting the bustling marketplace, Lila found Jake standing beside a stall, deep in conversation with Tom. The air was filled with the hum of laughter and chatter, but Lila felt a knot forming in her stomach. She approached them, her heart racing. "Jake, we need to talk." Seeing the urgency in her eyes, he gestured for Tom to excuse them. "What's wrong?" "I've heard more rumors about an outsider. There's talk that he's been in town, asking questions about the mine. We can't let anyone disrupt what we've built here." Jake's expression turned serious. "We should investigate, make sure this stranger means no harm. If he's out for the gold, we need to prepare." "Agreed," Lila said decisively. "If we face this together, we can protect our future." With their resolve set, they began to formulate a plan. As the flickering lanterns illuminated their determination, both felt a burgeoning sense of purpose. Whatever darkness threatened their newfound hope, they would face it together, united as a community stronger than ever before. Under the starry night sky, Lila and Jake gathered a few trusted townsfolk to discuss the threat looming over them. They chose the sturdiest building in Silver Creek, the community center, as their meeting place, its newly built walls standing tall as a testament to their hard work and unity. As the group assembled, Jake looked around at the familiar faces, friends, allies, and neighbors. "Thank you all for coming on such short notice," he began, his voice steady. "We've heard whispers about a stranger in town, and we can't ignore the potential danger to our community. We need to find out who he is and what he wants." Lila nodded in agreement. "It's crucial that we gather all the information we can. This is not just about protecting our gold. It's about safeguarding our community and the bonds we've built here." Tom stepped forward, a determined look on his face. "I've seen this man. He's been hanging around the saloon asking questions about the mine. I overheard him speaking to a couple of travelers, trying to get them to reveal more details about what we've uncovered." A murmur of concern rippled through the room. Clara, who had joined them, spoke up. "We can't let fear dictate our actions. We should approach him, confront him directly, and find out his intentions. If he's trying to stir up trouble, we need to show him that we're not afraid." Jake considered her words carefully. "That might work, but we need to establish a plan. We can't rush in without knowing more. Let's split into two groups. One will gather more intel about him, while the other will prepare to confront him if necessary." The townsfolk nodded, eager to take action. They began to organize themselves, deciding who would take on which role. Lila felt her heart swell with pride as she watched everyone unite with a common purpose. They were ready to protect their home, no matter the cost. As the groups dispersed into the moonlit streets, Lila and Jake decided to take a walk around the saloon, where the stranger was reportedly seen. They needed to assess the situation firsthand. The night air was cool, and the stars twinkled above, offering a sense of reassurance as they stepped into the heart of town. As they approached the saloon, the raucous laughter and clinking of glasses spilled out into the street. Pushing the door open, they entered, the warm glow of lamps illuminating the room, casting shadows on the faces of both patrons and strangers alike. The stranger sat at the far corner of the bar, a rugged man with a scar slicing across his cheek. His dark hair fell just over his brow as he leaned back, confidently commanding his space, his eyes scanning the room with a calculating gaze. Lila felt a shiver run down her spine. Jake leaned close to Lila, whispering, "That must be him." "Let's eavesdrop for a moment." Finding a hidden spot near the back, they leaned against the wall, their hearts pounding in sync with the lively atmosphere. As the stranger engaged in conversation with a few men, Jake strained to listen. "I hear there's gold in these hills," the stranger drawled, his voice low and smooth. "Is that true?" One of the local men shrugged, looking unsure. "Might be, but it's guarded fiercely. People around here aren't keen on sharing what they find." The stranger chuckled, an unsettling sound that echoed through the bar. "Well, gold has a way of making people forget their loyalties. I might be able to change a few minds if the price is right." Lila's heart raced. She exchanged a worried glance with Jake, who mouthed, "We need to act." Before they could execute their plan, a woman approached the stranger, a newcomer to Silver Creek, her eyes sparkling with intrigue. "I've heard things about this gold as well," she said flirtatiously. "What's your interest?" Jake shifted his weight, instinctively tensing as he watched the interaction unfold. "We can't let her get swayed," he murmured to Lila. "We need to expose him right now." Lila nodded, her mind racing with a plan. "I'll approach her," she whispered, gathering her courage. "You keep an eye on the stranger." Taking a deep breath, Lila walked over to the woman, offering a friendly smile. "Hi there, I'm Lila. I couldn't help but overhear your conversation. Are you new in town?" The woman turned to Lila, surprise mingled with curiosity. "Yes, just arrived. I've heard so much about the gold around here. It's all quite fascinating, isn't it?" Lila forced a smile, her instincts telling her this woman could be unwittingly involved in something dangerous. "It certainly is, but it's important to know that our community feels strongly about protecting what we have. There are better ways to engage with the people who live here than trying to seek out insights from strangers." The woman frowned, a flicker of discomfort crossing her face. "I didn't mean any harm. I'm just naturally curious." Lila glanced back at the stranger, who was now watching their interaction intently. "Be careful who you engage with. Not everyone in here has the town's best interests at heart." Around the bar, the conversations continued, but she could sense that the attention of the stranger was now focused on her. Muffled laughter erupted once more, but the atmosphere felt charged, like the calm before a storm. Jake lingered nearby, tension coiling in his gut. He approached, backing Lila's words as he turned to the stranger with an assertive stance. "You seem to have a keen interest in our community, stranger. But it would be wise to know that we protect our own, and loose lips have a way of attracting trouble." The stranger's dark eyes locked onto Jake's, a cold smile curling on his lips. "I'm all for protection, friend. But sometimes opportunities arise for those not afraid to seize them. Wouldn't you agree?" In that moment, the weight of unspoken challenges hung heavy in the air. Lila felt the urge to step between them, but held her ground, trusting Jake to maintain control. "Opportunities that come at the expense of others aren't really opportunities," she replied, her voice unwavering. "You need to understand that you won't find what you're looking for here if it's earned by deceit." A tense silence fell over the trio, the atmosphere thick with unspoken threats. The stranger leaned back, a shadow glimmering behind his confident facade. "Interesting perspective. But I assure you, treasure hunters will always find a way. Just remember, desperation drives some to do unthinkable things." Lila couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't a mere conversation. There was a menace under the surface, a challenge lingering in his words. "We're not afraid of you or what you represent. We've built this community on trust and we'll defend it." As the words left her lips, she felt a surge of power, buoyed by the unity she knew they had formed in Silver Creek. It was a community built on resilience, and they wouldn't let anyone tear them apart. The stranger chuckled softly, tipping his hat as he prepared to exit the saloon. "We'll see, Lila. I might find myself here again." Until next time. With that, he slipped out into the night, leaving behind a weighty silence filled with apprehension. Jake and Lila exchanged worried looks, knowing that they had stepped onto a precarious precipice. Later, Lila murmured, watching the door close behind him. We need to be on high alert. What he said, it means he's looking for weakness. Let's regroup with the others, Jake urged, the determination in his eyes unwavering. We need to let them know we're not backing down. This place is our home, and we'll protect it with everything we have. As they exited the saloon, the uncertainty of the future loomed before them, but so did the unyielding strength of community, built on trust and resilience. They were ready to face whatever danger might come their way, hand in hand, for they were no longer just individuals. They were Silver Creek. As dawn broke over Silver Creek, the warm glow of the sun spilled across the town, illuminating the excitement that filled the air. The previous night's confrontation with the outsider lingered in Jake and Lila's minds, but they knew they had to remain focused on their mission to strengthen the community. Today was set to be the grand opening of the new community center, and everyone was buzzing with anticipation. The preparations had been intense as townsfolk pitched in to decorate the center with handmade banners and flowers. Children ran around with laughter, their faces smudged with paint from helping their parents, their energy infectious. Lila and Jake watched as Clara organized games for the kids, ensuring that everyone felt included in the celebrations. Look at them, Lila said, her heart swelling with pride. It's amazing to see how far we've come together. Jake nodded, his gaze sweeping over the bustling crowd. This is what it's all about, bringing everyone together, celebrating each other. As the sun climbed higher, the community center door swung open, revealing the beautifully adorned interior. It radiated warmth and friendliness, reflecting the spirit of Silver Creek. Lila took a deep breath, feeling the flutter of nerves and excitement intertwine in her stomach. Are you ready for this? Jake asked, catching her eye. More than ready, she replied, determined. As the townsfolk gathered inside, Nathaniel took to the stage to kick off the festivities. Welcome everyone. Today we celebrate not just the opening of this center, but the generosity and unity that has brought us here. Let's make this a day to remember. Cheers erupted from the crowd, and Lila felt a rush of adrenaline. The inaugural festivities began with games, laughter, and even a barbecue that had the tantalizing aroma of grilled meats wafting through the air. People shared stories and exchanged recipes, delighting in the newfound friendships fostered by communal effort. A few hours into the event, Jake and Lila manned a booth encouraging people to sign a charter, solidifying their commitment to community principles and ensuring the openness they valued would continue to thrive. As they spoke with families, they felt the pulse of excitement and unity grow stronger. But amid the joy, Lila couldn't shake the feeling of unease. The stranger had warned her about desperation, and she knew their openness could invite threats if they weren't careful. She glanced around, her heart rate quickening as her gaze settled on a figure lurking at the edge of the crowd. The stranger stood there, seemingly blending into the background, observing. His presence sent a chill down Lila's spine. She leaned closer to Jake, whispering, "He's back, over there by the well. We need to stay alert." Jake's expression hardened. "Let's confront him, but tactfully. We can't let him rattle those who are here to celebrate." Lila nodded, steeling herself. Together they stepped away from the booth and approached the stranger, who seemed unbothered by their presence. As they got closer, Lila felt her pulse quickening, and she prepared herself for a confrontation. "Back for another visit?" Jake called out, his voice carrying authority. The stranger turned slowly, a sly smile creeping across his face. "I see the community is thriving. I couldn't resist watching the festivities unfold." "What do you want?" Lila asked, her voice steady, masking the anxiety rippling beneath. "Just observing," he replied, feigning innocence. "I've heard a lot of talk about this place, and I'd like to know what all the fuss is about." Jake stepped closer, asserting his presence. "You've been asking a lot of questions around town. We want to ensure our community is safe from any potential threats." The stranger chuckled, a low and unsettling sound. "Threats? Like I said, I'm just a curious observer. Surely you don't consider me a danger." Lila squared her shoulders, refusing to back down. "Your interest is unwelcome if it leads to harm for our community. We've worked too hard for this. Too many people depend on each other here." The stranger's smile faded slightly, his demeanor shifting as he assessed the situation. "You misunderstand. I came to offer a proposition." "A proposition?" Jake challenged, skeptical. "What kind of proposition could you possibly have that would benefit our community?" "The kind that might involve a partnership," he suggested, his tone smooth and insidious. "I know where the best veins of gold lie, resources that could ensure this town doesn't just survive, but thrives beyond comprehension." Lila felt bile rise in her throat as she exchanged a concerned glance with Jake. "What do you mean by partnership? This isn't about exploitation." "Exploitation?" he scoffed. "Think bigger. I can provide connections, investment. This town could flourish in ways you can't even imagine. All I ask in return is a little share of the wealth." Jake stepped forward, his fists clenching. "We're not interested in any dealings with someone who sees people as commodities. Silver Creek stands on principles of trust and respect, not greed." The stranger leaned closer, lowering his voice. "You think you can keep this place running without more capital? The world is changing, and if you can't adapt, you'll be left behind. Don't be naive." Lila felt a surge of anger. "We didn't build this community on naivety. We built it on hope and togetherness, and we won't let anyone corrupt it." "Very well," the stranger replied, backing off slightly, though his eyes sparkled with a hint of menace. "But you'll see. When desperation takes hold, you might reconsider my offer. Just remember, opportunity doesn't wait for anyone." As he turned to walk away, Jake squared his shoulders, leaning in as he called after him, "If you think we'll fall for your manipulations, you clearly underestimate us. We'll defend this community to our last breath." Lila shook her head, feeling the tension lazing like smoke in the air. "We need to alert the others. This isn't going to be over just because he walked away." As they returned to the festival, the lively sounds of laughter and celebration seemed distant, overshadowed by the gravity of their encounter. They shared what had happened with Clara and Tom, who listened closely, concern echoing in their eyes. "We need to rally everyone together," Clara urged. "If this is going to be an ongoing battle, we have to stay vigilant and ensure everyone knows what's at stake." In the days that followed, they organized more community meetings and reiterated their values to the townsfolk, reminding them of the strength they had forged together. Yet the shadow of the stranger loomed larger with each passing day. As they remained diligent, a cloud of uncertainty hung over Silver Creek. Would they be able to protect the unity they had built? Would desperation break the bonds they had so carefully woven? Then one afternoon, just as hope felt stronger than ever, fate dealt a dark card. News spread through the town like wildfire. A mining company had appeared on the outskirts of Silver Creek, claiming rights to the land. The concerted effort to maintain unity faced its most significant test yet, and everyone felt the weight of what was to come. In the face of such a threat, Jake, Lila, and their allies prepared to take a stand. Silver Creek's future was uncertain, but they knew one thing. Together they would fight for their community and what they had built, refusing to let greed destroy the legacy of hope they cherished. The news of the mining company's arrival sent shockwaves through Silver Creek. Meetings were convened in the community center almost daily as townsfolk gathered to voice their fears and frustrations. The once vibrant atmosphere was now clouded with uncertainty. Whispers of betrayal, loss, and impending doom echoed through the streets. Jake and Lila took it upon themselves to lead the discussions, knowing that the community needed direction in this trying time. As they stood in front of the assembled crowd, Jake addressed the townsfolk with a firm but calm voice. "We've faced challenges before, and we've overcome them together. This mining company thinks they can just waltz in and take what's ours, but we won't stand for it." Lila stepped forward, feeling the responsibility weighing on her shoulders. "We've built this place from the ground up with sweat and sacrifice. We owe it to ourselves and to each other to fight for Silver Creek. It's not just about the gold, it's about the heart of our community." As she spoke, she caught sight of the stranger at the back of the room, leaning against the wall with an amused expression. His presence sent a ripple of unease through her. The reminder of his earlier manipulations hung heavy in the air. "We need to strategize," she continued, her gaze unwavering. "First, we must learn more about this mining company. We need to understand their intentions and how we can defend our home." Tom raised his hand, his brow furrowed in worry. What if they come in force? They've got resources we can't match. We have something they don't, Jake replied confidently. We have each other, the strength of our unity. We've fought for this place and we'll do it again. As murmurs of agreement echoed through the crowd, Leila felt a flicker of hope. The spirit of camaraderie was still alive, but it needed to be stoked into a roaring fire. They devised a plan to gather intel on the mining company and to rally support among the surrounding communities who had faced similar threats. The next day, Leila, Jake, and a small group of trusted townsfolk set out to a meeting in the neighboring town of Pine Valley. Word had spread that many other communities were concerned about the implications of the mining company's presence, and they were eager to unite in a cooperative response. As they entered Pine Valley's community hall, Leila and Jake were welcomed warmly. The room was filled with faces that mirrored their own determination. After brief introductions, they began sharing their stories, recounting the challenges they faced and the importance of their land. One of the leaders from Pine Valley, a woman named May, expressed her thoughts passionately. We can't let these companies divide us. They want to pit us against each other, making us think we're alone. But together we can show them we're stronger as a united front. With every voice that joined the conversation, ideas began to flow. They spoke of organizing joint protests, community rallies, and outreach programs to educate their neighbors about the true cost of mining on their land and environment. As the day turned into night, Leila felt the weight of hope settle over them like a comforting blanket. However, while strategizing, she couldn't shake the feeling that the stranger was still lurking somewhere in the background, waiting for the right moment to strike. Returning to Silver Creek, she and Jake shared the news of the meeting, sparking renewed energy among the townsfolk. We're not alone in this fight, Jake announced, his voice ringing with confidence. Communities around us stand with us in this struggle. With newfound determination, they organized a rally in Silver Creek, inviting not just the local residents but also supporters from neighboring towns. The message spread quickly, and on the day of the rally, excitement buzzed through the air like static electricity. As Leila stood at the forefront of the crowd, she looked out at the sea of faces, people united for a common cause. Today, we stand together, not just for Silver Creek, but for every community facing the threat of corporate greed. We demand respect for our land, for our people, and for our future. Cheers erupted, and applause rippled through the crowd. The energy swelled, and Leila felt hope blooming within her, stronger than ever. But as she finished her speech, she glanced to the side and spotted the stranger watching from a distance, his expression inscrutable. She leaned over to Jake, who had been rallying support among the crowd. He's here again. We can't let him undermine what we're building. Jake's brow furrowed as he scanned the crowd. We need to confront him. If he's trying to disrupt this rally, we won't allow that. Leila took a deep breath. Let's do it together. With their resolve set, they moved toward the back of the crowd, where the stranger had positioned himself, arms crossed and an infuriating smile tugging at his lips. I must say this little gathering is quite impressive, he commented, eyeing the crowd with disdain. What do you want? Leila demanded, her voice steady despite the anger boiling inside her. I want to see how desperate you all are, he replied, amusement dancing in his eyes. It's a noble fight you're waging, but you're just a bunch of townsfolk. You think standing together will change anything? Jake stepped forward, anger igniting within him. We may be just townsfolk, but we're not weak. Our strength lies in our unity, and that's something you don't understand. The stranger chuckled lightly, shaking his head. You're adorable, but the reality is when push comes to shove, money talks, and I've got the ear of the mining company. I can make sure your little dreams of community remain nothing more than dreams. Leila felt her heart race, but she didn't let him see her fear. We'll never give up without a fight, and we'll expose you and your intentions for what they are. With a dismissive wave, the stranger turned to leave, but Leila called after him, her voice strong. You may think you can intimidate us, but we're not afraid. We stand united in our resolve. Good luck trying to tear us apart. As he walked away, the crowd buzzed. A new determination filled them, ignited by the confrontation. This was a battle that could define the very essence of Silver Creek. They were not just fighting for gold, but for their way of life, the principles they had fought so hard to uphold. The rally continued, fueled by passion and hope. Leila and Jake both felt an overwhelming sense of urgency. They would not only protect their community, but ensure that they were heard loud and clear, that Silver Creek would stand strong against any threat that dared to challenge their unity and spirit. The stranger had made a mistake underestimating them. They would show him that together they were far more than just townsfolk. They were a force to be reckoned with, ready to defend their home with everything they had. The battle for Silver Creek had only just begun, but they were prepared to meet the challenge head-on. As days turned into weeks, Silver Creek intensified its preparations to confront the mining company's encroachment. The rally had sparked a fire in the community, and the determination to protect their land only grew stronger. Lila, Jake, and the townsfolk met regularly, diligently devising strategies to counter any moves made by the company. The meetings often spilled over into long, passionate discussions that drained them but also filled them with purpose. They discussed everything from potential legal avenues to advocacy plans, determined to showcase their solidarity. One evening, as the sun set and painted the sky with glorious hues of red and orange, Lila found herself lingering after a meeting, sorting through notes at the community center. The sound of laughter from the nearby children playing tugged at her heart, a reminder of why they were fighting so hard. Jake stepped in, wiping sweat from his brow. "You okay? You've been awfully quiet." She looked up, meeting his gaze. "I'm just thinking about how much we have at stake. Every bit of progress we've made feels so fragile with this threat lingering over us." "It's a big load to carry," Jake admitted, while leaning against the wall, his arms crossed. "But look around. We've built a community here, one that doesn't shy away from challenges. Remember what we accomplished together." Lila smiled, recalling all the mornings they spent assembling plans and the resilience shown by every townsfolk. But doubt still gnawed at her. "I just worry about what the stranger said, about money talking. What if they have connections we don't know about? We've got our hearts, and they can't buy that," Jake replied, his confidence uplifting. "Let's keep pushing forward. The more we organize, the stronger we become." Their conversation was cut short as Clara burst into the room, her eyes wide with urgency. "You two need to see this," she exclaimed, waving a piece of paper triumphantly. "What is it?" Lila asked, curiosity piqued. Clara approached them, breathless. "I heard from a friend in Pine Valley that the mining company has scheduled a public hearing for next week. They'll be presenting their plans and trying to sway public opinion." Jake straightened. "A public hearing? This could be our chance to confront them directly." "Exactly, but we have to be prepared," Clara added. "This could be the moment we lay out our stance and reveal to everyone what they're really after." Lila's heart raced at the thought. This was an opportunity to bring their fight into the public eye and gather support from neighboring towns. "Let's organize our own presentation. We can showcase the impact mining has had on other communities as a warning." The three of them jumped into action, gathering information, creating pamphlets, and reaching out to other towns to rally solidarity. They planned to collect testimonies from those who had been affected by mining in the past, detailing the harm done to land and lives. The closer the hearing grew, the more the town buzzed with excitement. Posters were pinned, banners crafted, and a palpable sense of purpose ignited in the air. But the specter of the stranger remained, lurking just out of sight, as if waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The day of the public hearing arrived, and the community center was packed with townsfolk and visitors from surrounding areas. Lila stood before the gathered crowd, enveloped by their energy. She felt exhilarated and nervous all at once. "Thank you all for coming," Lila said, her voice ringing through the room. "Today, we have the chance to show that our community stands united against the mining company's exploitation. We all recognize what's at stake here." Cheers erupted, and she felt a wave of encouragement wash over her. Jake stepped up next to her, sharing a confident smile. "Let's demonstrate our commitment to preserving our land. Together, we can present a powerful case that the mining company's proposals could do more harm than good." Their team organized, gathering testimonies and data to support their position. The townsfolk presented accounts of families uprooted by mining, rivers polluted, and wildlife decimated. As each speaker shared their story, the crowd listened intently, a mix of emotions visible on their faces. But as the day wore on, Lila couldn't shake the tension that brewed in her chest. She spotted the stranger in the crowd, leaning casually against the wall, his gaze unwavering. Each time she caught sight of him, her heart raced. "Stay focused, Lila," Jake murmured, noticing her distraction. "This is our moment. Today wasn't just about making a statement, it was about securing their future. As the hearing closed, the mining company representatives took the stage, their polished appearance starkly contrasting the passionate townsfolk. Lila felt a knot form in her stomach as they began to present their proposal filled with promises of jobs and prosperity. The rhetoric felt hollow and insincere to her. They were clearly aiming to manipulate the sentiments of the community, and she could sense the unease spreading among her neighbors. Then, to Lila's horror, the stranger stepped up onto the stage beside the company representatives, clapping his hands together as though he were the moderator. "Ladies and gentlemen," he announced, his voice smooth and practiced, "I'm here to assure you that the mining company has only the best interests for this community at heart. My connections to their operations will ensure that Silver Creek remains a prosperous town." Gasps filled the room as his honeyed words began to take root. Lila's heart sank. They couldn't allow this to derail all their hard work. Before he could continue, Jake stepped forward, a fire ignited within him. "It's all smoke and mirrors. They'll tell you what you want to hear, but we know the truth. We've seen the destruction mining brings to communities, lives shattered, land ruined." A wave of agreement surged through the crowd, and Lila seized the moment, speaking out. "We will not stand by and allow monetary greed to replace our sense of community. We've worked too hard to rebuild what we stand for." The stranger rubbed his temples, feigning amusement. "Sentiment is all well and good, but you risk isolating yourselves. This isn't just a battle for the land, it's a battle for progress." "Progress?" Clara shouted, her voice slicing through the tension. "Progress means sustainability. It means protecting our livelihood for future generations." The crowd rallied behind her, voices rising in a chorus of support. Lila felt the power of unity blooming, a shared resolve to protect their home. The stranger's charm faded, and a flicker of annoyance crossed his face. "You're making a mistake if you think you can stand against the tide of progress." With renewed determination, Jake stepped back up. "We're not afraid of your tide. We're prepared to fight for what we believe in, and our community's unwillingness to accept your offer will form a barrier you can't cross." The tides of power had shifted, and Lila could feel the momentum pushing against the mining company and the stranger alike. They were ready for battle, armed with truth and unity. As the hearing came to a close, the townsfolk found themselves invigorated, reinforced by their togetherness. Together they had risen against manipulation, standing firm in their belief that Silver Creek was a beacon of strength that would not be dimmed by greed. And as they left the hearing hall, a collective sigh of relief washed over them. But deep in Lila's gut, she felt a stirring of dread, aware that the stranger's presence was more than a passing nuisance. They would need to remain vigilant. The fight for Silver Creek was just beginning, and the battle against greed and desperation would challenge them time and time again. They were ready to face the storm together, and Lila felt certain that, no matter the odds, they would not surrender their future without a fight. As the days turned into weeks, the tension surrounding Silver Creek ignited like a powder keg. The public hearing had sent ripples of resistance throughout the community. Lila, Jake, and the townsfolk felt emboldened, but also aware that the stranger and the mining company were formidable opponents. Plans were set into motion to prepare for the inevitable confrontation. One evening, as the sun dipped low behind the horizon, casting fiery hues across the sky, Lila gathered the townsfolk at the community center to discuss their next steps. The room buzzed with energy, a palpable mix of anxiety and determination. "Thank you all for coming," she began, her voice cutting through the chatter like a knife. "After the hearing, we know what we're up against. We've got to get organized. We need to show the mining company that we will protect our home at all costs." Jake nodded, standing beside her. "We can't let them take our land and exploit our community. We've seen the damage it causes: pollution, loss of culture, families torn apart. We have to be proactive." Tom raised his hand, his face etched with concern. "But how do we fight against a company that has resources we don't? They can afford to bring in lawyers, security. They have everything at their disposal." Lila took a deep breath, steeling herself. "We may not have their resources, but we have something more powerful: our community and our story. We're not just fighting for land, we're fighting for our way of life. We can gather testimonials, share our stories with the media, and rally support from every town that has suffered from mining." The room nodded in agreement, a wave of shared conviction surging through them. Clara chimed in, her voice rising with passion. Let's also reach out to environmental organizations. They may help us amplify our voices and provide expertise on how to protect our land. As plans solidified, Lila felt a sense of urgency. They had to act fast before the mining company could solidify its operations. They formed committees to organize protests, gather testimonials, and contact environmental advocacy groups. A timeline emerged, layered with tasks and responsibilities that everyone eagerly embraced. However, lurking in the shadows, the stranger remained a constant threat. Rumors began to circulate that he was making connections with higher-ups in the mining company, fostering relationships that could prove disastrous for Silver Creek. One evening, after a long day of organizing, Lila and Jake took a moment to talk as they watched the sunset. The golden light bathed them in warmth, but tension clouded their thoughts. "Do you think we're doing enough?" Lila asked, her voice barely above a whisper, uncertainty creeping in. Jake turned to her, his expression serious. "We're doing everything we can, but we need to stay focused. The moment we show doubt is the moment we give them power." Lila nodded, but concern etched her brow. "I just can't shake the feeling that the stranger is waiting for us to slip up. He's got his eye on us, and I can't help but wonder if he's playing a long game." "Then we keep our eyes open," Jake replied firmly. "We remain united and vigilant. We've managed to inspire the community so far. Even if despair tries to creep in, we show them hope. Remember the rally. We've already turned the tide in some ways." As they moved from the sunset into the night, Lila felt a flicker of hope ignite within her. The next few days were a whirlwind of activity, with the townsfolk coming together for a series of community events designed to raise awareness and generate external support. They painted signs, crafted pamphlets, and prepared speeches, determined to make their voices heard. Finally, the day of action arrived. The sun shone brightly as crowds gathered in the central square of Silver Creek. Lila's heart raced with a sense of purpose as she watched the colorful banners waving and heard the passionate voices echoing through the air. She felt invigorated by the sight of families, friends, and neighboring townsfolk coming together in solidarity. Lila took to the makeshift stage, her heart pounding with emotion. "Today we stand here not just for ourselves, but for our children and grandchildren. We refuse to let outsiders dictate our fate. We deserve to live in harmony with our land, to cherish and protect it for future generations." Cheers erupted from the crowd, a wave of unity washing over them. Lila felt powerful, her words resonating as she spoke of the beauty of their community and the importance of preserving it. As the rally proceeded, they shared testimonials from families affected by mining practices, harrowing accounts that highlighted the consequences of corporate greed. Each voice added weight to their cause, transforming personal struggles into a collective narrative of resilience. Toward the end of the rally, just as momentum peaked, the stranger emerged from the crowd, a wry smile on his lips. He casually approached the stage, drawing the attention of the audience. "You think this will change anything? You're only stirring the pot. The mining company has more resources than you can imagine, and they won't back down." Jake stepped forward, challenging him. "It's not about backing down. It's about standing firm against exploitation. Our hearts are in this fight, and we're not intimidated by your threats." Lila stood resolute, meeting the stranger's gaze. "You underestimate us. This isn't just a fight for land. It's a fight for our dignity and our right to exist, without fear of losing our homes to greed." The crowd surged behind her, voices rising in unison, echoing the battle cry that had united them time and time again. A powerful wave of resilience that enveloped everyone present. The stranger, realizing his words had fallen flat, offered nothing but a curt laugh as he stepped back, but the fire ignited within Silver Creek refused to die. As the rally came to a close and the crowds began to disperse, Lila felt a renewed sense of hope filling her heart. They had sent a strong message. The unity displayed today would resonate beyond their small town. But as shadows stretched long across Silver Creek, she couldn't shake the feeling that the real battle was yet to come. By the time night fell, Lila and Jake gathered with the organizing team to discuss how they could maintain momentum. The stranger was still out there, and their resolve needed to stay strong in case he made his next move. "Let's capitalize on the energy we've built," Jake suggested. We need to reach out to more communities. If we can build a coalition of towns, their combined voices will amplify our message. Lila nodded in agreement, a fire igniting inside her. Yes, together we can campaign not just for Silver Creek, but for all of us who refuse to let greed and manipulation define our fate. With a renewed sense of purpose, they went to work, prepared to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Each day added layers of strength to their unity, and while doubt occasionally crept in, the spirit of Silver Creek remained unyielding. As they strategized late into the night, Lila looked around the room at the familiar faces, her heart swelling with determination. They would face the darkness together, standing firm as the guardians of their future. Silver Creek was more than a place. It was home, and they would fight for every inch of it. Together they were more than just a community. They were an unbreakable force, ready to defend their land, their spirit, and their future against any threat that dared to challenge them.